Hello everyone and welcome to this yoga practice for ankles. My name is Gillie and I'll be leading you through this class today. Just want to give a quick shout out to David. Thank you so much for requesting this practice that focuses on ankles. And everyone else, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also to send your requests. What do you want to learn about? What do you feel needs to get stronger or more flexible? And I'll work on that. So today, yoga for the ankles. Why is it important to have strong ankles? Well, it's important to have strong and flexible everything for our practice. But I often say to students that we build our postures from the ground up. So through the soles of the feet, the ankles, up through the legs, hips, upper body, right to the top of the head and the end of the fingertips. So it's really important to keep a focus on the whole of our body during practice. Let's look a bit closer at the ankle joint. What are the movements of the ankle joint that we can work on? Quite often we flex our feet a lot in yoga, dorsiflexion and plantar flexion as well, so pointing the toes. And the other two special movements of the ankle joint are inversion, turning the sole of the foot medially to the midline, and eversion, turning the sole of the foot outside. So we have inverter and everter muscles which we can work on strengthening, and a little bit of flexibility as always in the second part of our practice. So we can build that balance between strength and flexibility. Grab your mat, maybe a couple of blocks if you have them, and let's get started with the practice. Let's start our practice today sitting down on the mat. It's not such a crazy practice today, it's a little more chilled as we focus more on the ankles. So leaning back, we'll cross one ankle over the top of the thigh. Let's make sure there's a lot of room and space for this ankle outside the edge of the thigh. And if you want a little bit of hip opening as well, you could lift the chest, walk this foot just a little bit closer. So we're getting almost like a pigeon pose effect. This is a secondary a benefit from this posture, because what I really want you to focus on is circling this ankle. Nice big circles, you can spread out the toes, full range of motion. That added hip stretch is just an extra benefit. If you want more, keep moving that right knee away from you, lifting the chest. Change direction, circle your ankle the other way. So we're moving through now all of the range of motion, that plantar flexion, dorsiflexion, the inversion and the eversion. When you've had a few circles, change sides. Again, it might be a very loose position. You can work on the ankle, or if you'd like more of a hip stretch while you're at it, lift the chest, move that other foot closer, nice big circles. This left knee moving away if you want the hip stretch. Get a few in both directions. And then we'll release, cross over at the ankles, bring the hands forward, we'll step it back into downward facing dog. Just give the legs a nice pedal. And be really generous with the bend in the knee here. I want you to think more about what's happening in the feet today. So spreading the toes, pedaling and stretching the back of the legs. You can always make it a little bit shorter today. And then we'll lift right up onto the tiptoes and bend the knees all the way down to the floor. They might come a tiny way, you might get them all the way to the floor. We'll lift up again, stretch the backs of the feet, and then lowering right down again. Just take it as deep as it feels good for you. We'll lift up again, take a big step forward or a couple of steps, top of the mat, Uttanasana, holding the elbows or letting the arms dangle. Again, pedaling through the legs. And let the head completely relax. 2 more nice deep breaths here, stretching out and opening the backs of the legs. We'll take a great big breath in, we'll reach both arms up to the sky, and then palms down by your sides for mountain pose. Just take a step back to the middle of your mat. Make sure there's something nice for you to focus on, a wall or something in front of you, preferably not a blank wall. That will help us with our balance a little bit here. So spreading the feet right under the shoulders, spread and separate those toes as much as you possibly can. That's going to give you as much of a stable base. I was teaching a class this morning, we were trying to do arm balances, and one of my students had quite a compressed hand position. And I was sort of trying to point out that we don't stand on half of our feet. We want to create a big stable base. So spread your toes, spread your feet, and always think about that. Whenever your hands or your feet are on the floor in your yoga posture, create that big biggest possible stable base. So standing nice and tall, let's take a breath in, we'll lift the heels. And as you exhale with control, we slowly lower them down. Continue with your breath, inhaling to lift and exhaling to lower. We're trying to keep the ankles nice and straight, avoid them from rolling outward or inward as we slowly lift and lower. You're moving with your own pace of breath now, inhaling to lift and exhaling to lower. A few more repetitions, breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Next inhale, we'll lift and hold. So inhale, lift. See if you can really lift those heels as high as possible. Spread the toes, press the toes down into the floor, and then go ahead and bend the knees. Ooh, that might be a tiny bend in the knee, or maybe you can focus, squeeze, and lower right the way down. Could be a deep low. See if you can keep those heels as high as possible. Next breath in, we'll lift back up, heels stay lifted, and exhale, lower the heels down. We'll take a few repetitions like that. So inhaling, lift the heels, exhaling, bend the knees as low as you'd like to go. Stay with me or go deeper. Inhaling to straighten the legs, keep the heels lifted, and exhale with control, lower down. 3 more repetitions. Inhale and exhale. Inhaling and exhaling. 2 more. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in. So great strengthening for our calf muscles here. Good. Inhaling, whoa, catch the balance, and lower down. So those little wobbles and falls are going to help us stay strong, build strength, and build balance. Good. So moving on to our next pose now. Adding just a little bit more depth, a little more balance. Interlace the hands behind the back, open the chest. Take another breath in, we'll lift the heels, and as we exhale, we'll dive the chest forward. So bending the knees, whoa, keep those heels nice and lifted. Bring the chest and the shoulders down towards. Whoa, even I'm losing my balance today. So really lift the heels, send the chest forward. So I have heard this pose called drinking bird before. You can call it whatever you like. We're just working the back of the calf muscles, getting a nice amount of strength. Good. Bring the heels back to the floor, lift the chest. Inhale, take your arms up. And exhale, palms to the chest. Let's go for one more variation of that. We can either choose to stay in that drinking bird, or I'll give you an extra option. So interlace the hands behind the back, open the chest. Inhale, lift the heels. And exhale, bend the knees, send the chest forward. So drinking bird, lifting the heels as high as possible. Stay and hang out here if it feels good. If you'd like a little more, drop the right heel down and lift the left foot up. Flex it, so dorsiflex it a lot. We're getting a lot of strength there. We can come up to standing, bring the knee into the chest. And then we can send that leg straight back behind us. Warrior 3 variation. Good, bringing it back into the chest again. Slowly lower it down. Lift both heels back up again, send the chest back towards the floor. So if you're still in your drinking bird, you might want to take a rest now, bring your hands down to the floor, find Uttanasana. If you're coming with me to take the other side, stay where you are, lift both heels high, drop the right foot down, lift the left heel down, lift the right foot off the mat, and flex that foot a lot. Lift it as high as possible. Come up to standing, knee into the chest. Good, we'll send it back into our Warrior 3 variation. Good, so we're working a lot, muscles around that left ankle. Keep the chest lifting, lift the back leg. Let's draw that leg back into the chest again. And slowly bend the knee, lower it down. Folding forward, lift the heels. Release the arms, let's keep up high on the heels, bring the arms all the way overhead. And exhale, release. Whew. I said it wasn't going to be a crazy practice, but I'm getting quite warm here up on the rooftop, and that was quite hard work. So shake it all off, give your shoulders, hips, make sure you bring lots of mobility to the ankles, lots of rolling in the ankles. So in yoga, we don't do a lot of inversion and eversions in terms of standing. So how are we going to work those? Don't know how much space you have to work with. I'll stay on my mat. But we're going to just do a little bit of strengthening for inversion and eversion, so that rolling in and outwards of the ankles. So we'll start on the outside edges of the ankle, on the feet. See if you can just stand on the outside blades of your feet and just take a walk around the mat. I hope nobody fast forwarded to this part of the video and is wondering what on earth that I'm doing. So barefoot walking with inverted feet. Yeah, when you've done a couple of circles, turn around, go in the other direction. Yeah, if you're not used to building these muscles, this may get tiring quite quickly. And then we'll change over, so everted feet. See if you can stand on the inside edges of your feet. So you're now working the muscles on the outside of the legs. And just take another little walk around your mat. I think this looks even more crazy than the first one. That's fine. Life is all about looking crazy, laughing at yourself, not caring. I think like this is slightly like a little bit of a penguin walk. I don't know if it's just because I'm adding the hands in there as well. So take another little journey. Maybe you're journeying all the way around your house. Or maybe you're just walking around your mat like me. We'll find our way back to the middle and give the ankles a nice big circle again. Yeah. Last final little bit of strengthening before we get the stretch in. Let's step the feet nice and wide, not too wide, and turn the left toes to face towards the top of the mat and turn the back heel open. So we're moving into our warrior two stance. Hips nice and level. Extend the arms parallel with the floor, keep the torso open towards the long side of your mat and look towards the left fingertips. Let's take a deep breath in. As we exhale, maybe squeeze and sink the hips a little bit deeper. Next time we inhale, we'll lift that front heel off the mat as high as possible. And exhale, release it down. Inhaling to lift and exhaling to squeeze. Inhaling to lift and exhaling to squeeze. Good. Breathing in and breathing out. Good. Straightening up that leg now. Let's take a breath in as we lift and dorsiflex that foot, squeezing to lower it down. So with a little bit of weight and resistance, we're lifting those toes towards us. Couple more repetitions and lower. Always good if it's a little sensitive on the heel, you can leave a little bit of padding. Let's bend the knee again. We'll bring it back to face the center, hands on the hips. Turn the right toes out, left heel out. Let's come into warrior two on the other side. Hips nice and level, extend the arms, looking forward. Maybe see if we can drop the hips a little bit deeper. Take a breath in, we'll lift the heel and lower. Lifting the heel and lowering. Nice and slow with control. Breathing in. Breathing out, two more. Inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, exhaling. Let's release now, straighten that leg. Breathing in, flex the heel. Breathing out, spread the toes. Breathing in, breathing out. Just two more. Inhale and exhale. Inhaling and exhaling. Turn the toes towards the front. Why not? While we're here, we'll take a nice wide-legged fold. So inhale, arms come up. And exhale, spread the arms, hands to the hips or the floor, toes slightly turning in. Nice big stretch. Let's move into the stretch portion of our practice. Moving on now to the flexibility part of our practice, we're going to work on stretching the ankles. So starting in a kneeling posture, we'll take a half Vajrasana and a half Malasana, which is our squat pose. So we'll release one foot, kind of like our yogi squat pose. We'll spin the chest, so we're trying to bring the sternum on top of the knee and then start to take the weight forward and lean. Now as we lean, you'll notice that this heel slightly lifts off the mat. That's fine. That means we're getting a full extension and length in the Achilles tendon. So just be gentle with this one. Take the weight of the chest. You might just rest on the fingertips or let the full weight of the chest come onto the knee. Stretching through the back of the Achilles tendon, the calves, so soleus gastrocnemius muscles. Take a few moments to enjoy that one. If you're a runner or you're doing a lot of activity in the gym, on the treadmill, climbing a lot of stairs, hiking, this is an amazing stretch for you guys. So just take a few moments to enjoy it. And then we'll release. We'll bring it over to the other side. So coming one leg kneeling, one leg in a squat pose. You can always place a block underneath the sacrum if this one's a lot. Spin the chest towards the knee, seeing if we can land the sternum almost on top of the knee. The weight comes forward as that bottom kneel lifts. Now quite often when I'm teaching this one, it takes a few tries to get into it and feel it. So keep trying and just think of leaning that weight forward so that heel lifts off the ground, and you'll soon feel that stretch in the calf and the back of the ankle. So enjoy that one for a few breaths. I always find a little bit of motion is good when I'm stretching, so gently rocking backward and forward into it. It's juicy, enjoy it. And then gently release. Releasing now into a kneeling posture. I want to stretch out the front of the feet. So feet could be slightly separated, spread the toes. Sit back on the heels. My notes just blew away, I don't know if you noticed that, so we're winging it for the rest of the class. So knees down nice and firm, fingertips on the floor. We'll just start to press into the fingertips and lift the knees off. So we're stretching the front of the feet. Now your lift may be quite low. If you've not got very flexible in the front of the feet, and there's no reason why you would have, so it might be a new stretch for you, be nice and patient. Maybe it's the case that you can lift right up to the toes. If it is, and you feel like you could take this stretch slightly deeper, move with me. Otherwise, stay where you are, working with that gentle lift to lift the knees. If you're going deeper, come back to plank pose. Instead of tucking the toes onto the ground, release the tops of the feet onto the ground. Spread out the toes. And then start to lift the hips as if you were coming into downward dog, but the tops of the feet are pressing down. You might not be able to stay as long in this one. See how it feels. You can always come back to this one if it feels too much. So a few more breaths in whichever version you're going for. Ooh, it's quite intense, opening the front of the feet. Gently releasing. Let's come onto a counter now. So tucking the toes under. Spread those toes out as much as possible and sit back on the heels. If you've got tiny pinkies like me, they might not even touch the ground, but see if you can get them to touch the ground. Sit back on the heels. Now some of you will be used to sitting like this a lot, others you'll start to find an agonizing stretch as soon as you've done it. So relax the shoulders. We can distract ourselves with a little shoulder stretch. So give the shoulders a nice roll. If at any point during this you want to release the feet, take a rest or come back in. Otherwise we'll go for our Garudasana, our eagle arms. A nice stretch for the rhomboids, back of the shoulders. Both arms forward. Let's take the right elbow on top. Squeeze the elbows together, backs of the hands or the palms together. Lift the elbows up, squeeze the shoulders down. Nice intense stretch in the back of the shoulders. Maybe it's building in intensity in the feet now. If it is, feel free to release those. Nice deep breaths. Let's change the arms now, give the shoulders a roll. Again, if you need to take a break with the feet, go ahead. Otherwise, left elbow on top this time. Elbows up, shoulders down. Feel that stretch in the rhomboids, back of the shoulder blades, trapezius muscle. Keep the shoulders down, lift the elbows up. And then release the arms, give the shoulders a roll. Then lean forward. Release the toes, give them a wiggle. We'll take the left foot down to the floor and the right foot on top. So I'm not sure if you can see properly, I'm taking the top of the foot into the middle of the other foot. Start to sit back on the heels. This should feel amazing or excruciating. Both very similar, right? So just enjoy that stretch. You can give yourself a little bit of a wiggle, a little bit of a stretch here. So just sitting down, feeling that compression of top of the foot inside the bottom of the other foot. Yeah, if any of you guys are watching in Hong Kong, you know it's very popular here to go for a foot massage, a foot rub. You can just do this practice instead. It's very nice. Leaning forward, let's change it over. Right foot down on the inside, left foot inside. Let's sit the heels down. So I'm just feeling the heels on either side of the sit bones, giving them a wiggle side to side. Nice compression for that inner right foot. You can always go for a little more shoulder stretching while you're here. Whatever feels nice. Yeah. And then releasing. Let's bring tops of the feet down to the floor. and just sitting back on the heels. So this could be a really good stretch for you as well. Might be a lot in the knees. If it is, you can always pop a block underneath the sacrum. So this is our Vajrasana, thunderbolt pose. Just a kneeling posture. It can be a good one to practice. Just take a moment to enjoy it. Nice deep breaths. Now, quite often this could be enough. If you're taking it even deeper into Virasana or hero pose, I like to bring the knees slightly apart. There are other disciplines such as Bikram yoga that bring the knees together, but I find it's too intense on my knees to bring the knees together if I'm going to separate the feet and sit the heels down in between on the floor. So the hips are on the floor in between the feet. This can be a lot. I always prefer just to use a block, sit on a block. So the heels are either side of the feet. I'm going to slide forward slightly so I can show you the reclined variation. You can stay where you are. You might just practice sitting here. This could be good. Tops of the feet down, toes are pointing towards the back of the mat. We can take the hands behind the back and lift the chest, a little bit of a back bend, chest opening. Now if we're going into our Virasana, reclined hero pose, there's a nice option here. We can use a block in the center of the back, middle back, upper back. You can lift the hips up and release the fleshy part of your butt cheeks and come down onto the sacrum, onto that block. Coming down onto the elbows, you can bring that middle back to the block, lie back, take your arms back. Ah, feels so good. So we're getting nice opening tops of the feet, thighs, pelvis, the chest, the hip flexors, and now the shoulders as well. If it's too much at any point, you can keep the arms down, you can stay on the elbows, or maybe you can come down here. Those of you that didn't need the block at all, you're going for the same thing completely without the block. Maybe the hips come all the way down, maybe you can come all the way down to the back. So just staying for a few more breaths in whichever variation feels good for you. Maybe you're still in this one with me. Just kneeling in Vajrasana. So Vajrasana, thunderbolt pose, and Virasana, hero pose. Whichever one you're in, whether you're reclined or sitting nice and tall now, enjoy 2 more breaths, nice and long and deep. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. If you're reclining slowly, use your elbows, gently lift yourself back up to kneeling on the block or kneeling like me. And let's find a nice seated posture for one final treat before we take our Shavasana. So I often talk about this with my students. Some of them look at me like I'm crazy and some of them say to me, oh, I tried that, it's amazing. I should have brought my cream with me today, but one of my rituals to care for my feet, because I'm on them all the time and using them all the time in my practice, is every night before I get into bed, or I sit on the edge of the bed and I'll get some cream, nice foot cream or moisturizer, and just give my feet a little bit of love and attention. So I'll give them a nice rub and all the ways that just naturally feel good, and then I'll start to interlace one finger in between each toe. So I'm spreading the toes out. And then see if I can make a fist. Now, first time you try this, it might be quite intense. When you've got it, you can really wiggle them in there, give those ankles a nice circle, the toes and the feet a nice circle, and get as much down in there as you can. Yeah. Maybe you're still working on a few at a time, or you can go for one at a time, see how it feels. So a little bit of foot yoga. Once you've given one a lot of love, go over to the other side. So interlacing one finger between each toe, even that tiny pinky one. It's easier with cream, right? You can always hit pause, go and get some moisturizer, and then really work them in there, work the ankles, see if you can spread the toes and get those fingers as far down in between, just like you would be interlacing your hands. And then gently release. Give them a nice roll. I hope you enjoyed this practice and you'll stay with me now for a few minutes of Shavasana. Even though we didn't work crazy hard today, I think we definitely deserved it. So get comfortable, lie down. Spread the feet a little bit wider than the hips. Make sure your head finds center and you're completely relaxed. Soften through the face, the head, shoulders, all the way down the arms, the body, the legs. Especially the ankles, the feet and the toes. Let's take 10 breaths just to enjoy this stillness and rest. Slowly start to deepen the breath, filling the lungs to maximum capacity and then letting them empty completely, pulling navel down to spine as you exhale. Move the fingers and toes lightly and roll the ankles and wrists. Just notice that sensation in the ankles, how it feels compared to the beginning of the practice. And anything that you feel you may wish to continue to work on. Let's take another big inhale, stretch the arms overhead. And then on your exhale, hug the knees into the chest. Give yourself a great big hug, rolling, rocking side to side or in circles. Slowly rolling onto your side, taking a moment to rest. Or finding your way slowly up to seated. Take your time to arrive, there's no rush whatsoever. And when you do find your comfortable position, seated or practicing some of your newfound kneeling skills on a block or without a block, we'll sit with the spine nice and tall. Soften through the face and the shoulders. Let your tummy completely relax. Enjoy whatever sensations are moving through the body. We've got a lovely, nice, cool breeze here. I hope you're practicing somewhere lovely too. Let's take a nice, deep breath in. And let it go as you exhale. Thank you for joining me. Namaste. Thank you so much. If you're watching this video, thank you again to David for the request for yoga for ankles. If you have a request, don't forget to get in touch with me. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll look forward to seeing you here again soon. Thank you. Namaste.